September 5, 1972. 21 hours into the hostage crisis at the Munich Olympics, Israeli athlete David Berger lies dead in a helicopter at Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base. The German rescue attempt has collapsed into chaos. 11 Israeli athletes are dead. 3 helicopters burn on the tarmac. In Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Golda Meir receives the casualty list over a secure line. She asks her military secretary one question: who planned this? The answer comes back within hours. Ali Hassan Salama, Black September's chief of operations, age 31, based in Beirut. Untouchable. Meir convenes an emergency cabinet meeting that night. The decision takes 11 minutes. Salama must die. Defense Minister Moshe Dayan raises the obvious problem: he's in Lebanon. We can't just send a team into Beirut. Meir's response becomes the operational mandate. Then we wait until he leaves. The assignment goes to Mike Harari, head of Caesarea, Mossad's Special Operations Division. Harari is 42 years old. He has run covert operations in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. He has killed 11 men in his career, all of them quietly, all of them in ways that left no evidence. This assignment is different. Meir wants Salame dead publicly. She wants Palestinians to understand that Munich has consequences that don't expire. Harari accepts the mission with one condition: no timeline. He tells Zamir, the Mossad director, that rushed operations leave bodies in the wrong places. Zamir agrees. The operation is codenamed Spring of Youth. Budget: unlimited. Constraint: Salame must be positively identified before action. No assumptions, no mistakes. What Harari doesn't say in that first meeting is what concerns him most. Ali Hassan Salame doesn't behave like a hunted man. He lives openly in Beirut's Verdun district. He drives a Mercedes. He drinks at the Commodore Hotel bar. Men who think they're untouchable usually have a reason. Either they have protection Mossad doesn't know about, or they're bait for something larger. January 1973. Harari assembles his surveillance network in a conference room that smells like cigarette smoke and instant coffee. The team is 36 operatives spread across 8 European cities. Most are Sayanim volunteer helpers from local Jewish communities. They're not trained spies. They're business owners, taxi drivers, accountants who can watch, photograph, and report without drawing attention. The strategy is methodical. Track Salame's associates in Europe. Build pattern of life profiles. Map communication networks. Wait for Salame to surface somewhere Mossad can operate freely. Then kill him with a small team using untraceable weapons. Simple. Clinical. The kind of operation Harari has executed successfully a dozen times. The first target is Mahmoud Hamshari, Black September's representative in Paris. The surveillance team rents an apartment across from his building on Rue d'Elysia. They photograph everyone who visits. They intercept his mail. They clone his phone line. Within 6 weeks, they know Hamshari's schedule better than he does. Morning coffee at 7:15, office by 9, lunch at the same cafe every Tuesday and Thursday. On December 8, 1972, a Mossad technician rigs Hamshari's phone with an explosive device triggered by a specific ring pattern. That afternoon, an operative calls from a payphone 2 blocks away. Is this Mahmoud Hamshari? When Hamshari confirms, the operative triggers the detonator. Hamshari dies in the hospital 3 weeks later. The operation leaves no witnesses, no evidence. The message is sent: Munich will be answered. But Salame doesn't surface. Harari expands the surveillance grid. Teams deploy to Rome, Geneva, Brussels, Copenhagen. They track bank account, safe houses, travel patterns. The intelligence is good, almost too good. By April 1973, they've identified 17 Black September operatives across Europe. They've intercepted communications about arms shipments, training camps, planned attacks. The data is overwhelming. Harari requests additional analysts to process the intelligence flood. Zamir approves the budget without questions. The operation has cost $2.8 million so far. They've killed 3 Black September operatives. Palestinian networks in Europe are fracturing under the pressure, but the primary target remains in Beirut, conducting business as usual, drinking at the Commodore, driving his Mercedes through streets where Mossad cannot touch him. In May, Harari receives a cable from the Geneva surveillance team. A man matching Salame's description checked into the Hotel du Midi using a false Kuwaiti passport. The team photographed him twice, once entering the hotel, once at a cafe on Rue du Mont Blanc. Both images show a man in sunglasses. Similar build, similar age, right general appearance. Harari studies the photographs for 6 hours. The image quality is poor. Afternoon light through cafe windows. Partial profile. The man could be Salame, or he could be one of 50 other Palestinian operatives in their database. Harari calls the team leader in Geneva. How confident are you? The answer comes after a long pause. 70%. Maybe 75%. This is the decision point. Demand better confirmation and risk losing Salame if it's really him, or proceed with a 75% identification and accept what happens if they're wrong. Harari knows the probability mathematics. 3/4. Confident means 1 in 4 chance of killing the wrong person. But how many chances will they get? The question Harari doesn't ask himself, the question he won't ask until much later, is whether killing Salame is still worth it. 6 months into the operation, Black September is already weakening under operational pressure. Their European networks are compromised, their funding is disrupted. Salame himself might be less dangerous now than he was in September, but that calculation never enters the decision matrix. The mission is to kill Salame. Everything else is secondary. The man in the Geneva photographs is still there. The surveillance team is waiting for instructions, and Mike Harari has to decide whether 75% certainty is enough. Harari runs the decision up the chain. He sends the Geneva photographs to Mossad headquarters with his assessment. Possible match, insufficient confirmation, requires additional surveillance time. He requests 48 hours to get a clear facial image without sunglasses. He proposes sending a second team to verify the target's identity through voice recognition or fingerprint acquisition. Zvi Zamir reviews the request for 11 minutes. Then he calls Harari directly. How long have we been looking for this man? Harari knows the answer. 7 months. Zamir's response is immediate. And how many more months do we wait for a perfect photograph? He's in Geneva now. He won't be there in 48 hours. You have authorization to proceed. Harari puts down the phone and stares at the photographs again. 75%. He's killed men on stronger identifications. He's also walked away from operations when the certainty wasn't there. But this isn't a normal operation. This is Munich. This is the Prime Minister's direct order. This is the mission that's already consumed 7 months, $3 million, and the operational focus of Israel's entire intelligence apparatus. He calls Dan Erbel, the designated team leader. Erbel is in Brussels with 5 other operatives the kill team assembled 3 months ago and kept on standby across Europe. We have a target in Geneva. Confidence level is 75%. You're authorized to proceed. There's a pause on the line. Erbel asks the question Harari dreads. What's the 25%? Harari gives the honest answer. The 25% is we kill someone who isn't Salame. Another pause. Then Erbel asks the question that will haunt both of them. And if we wait for better confirmation and lose him? Harari doesn't have an answer for that. Neither does Erbel. The team deploys to Geneva that afternoon, but the target moves. On July 19th, Geneva surveillance reports the man checked out of the Hotel du Midi. No forwarding information, no additional sightings. The trail is dead. Harari recalls the kill team. The operation resets to surveillance mode. Another waiting period begins. 2 days later, the network triggers again. Not Geneva. Lillehammer, Norway. A Mossad informant in Oslo reports a man matching Salame's description arriving by train from Stockholm. He's traveling with a woman. They checked into a local guest house using Moroccan passports. The informant photographed them from across the street, another distant shot, another partial profile, another man who might or might not be Ali Hassan Salame. This time, Harari doesn't request additional confirmation time. The pattern is clear. Salame, if it's Salame, is moving through Europe using multiple identities and random routing. Any delay means losing him again. Harari authorizes immediate deployment. The kill team travels from Brussels to Oslo to Lillehammer in 16 hours. They arrive with no advanced reconnaissance, no local support network, no escape routes beyond commercial flights back to continental Europe. Dan Airbell conducts 4 hours of surveillance before making his assessment. The target matches the physical description. Right age, right build, right movement patterns. But Airbell notices something wrong. The target is relaxed. He walks around Lillehammer openly. He eats at local restaurants. He holds hands with the pregnant woman. This isn't how hunted men behave. This is how innocent men behave. Airbell calls Harari at 8:00 p.m. local time. Something's off. The target doesn't have security, no counter-surveillance, no operational awareness. He's acting like a civilian. Harari asks the critical question, "Do you think it's him?" Airbell's answer takes 15 seconds. "I think it could be him. But I also think it could be someone else." This is the abort point. This is where doctrine says stop, reassess, demand positive confirmation before action. Harari knows this. Airbell knows this. But there's another factor neither of them articulates if they abort again, if they lose another. Target, because they demanded certainty, the operation's credibility evaporates. Mir wants results. Zamir wants results. 7 months of waiting has created institutional pressure that overrides operational caution. Harari makes the decision at 8:47 p.m. You have authorization to proceed, tonight. Before he moves again, Airbell acknowledges and disconnects. What neither of them says what neither of them can say is that they're authorizing an execution based on maybe 70% confidence. Lower than Geneva, lower than doctrine allows, but the political cost of inaction now exceeds the operational risk of being wrong. At 11:47 p.m. on July 21, 1973, Dan Airbell shoots a man 9 times outside a guest house in Lillehammer. The target is walking with a pregnant woman. She screams. He falls. Blood spreads across the sidewalk under the midnight sun. The woman is hysterical, trying to stop the bleeding, screaming words in Norwegian that none of the operatives understand. The kill team disperses according to protocol. Airbell reaches Oslo Airport 4 hours later. Norwegian police arrest him at the departure gate. They find gunpowder residue on his hands. His shoes match footprints at the crime scene. His passport Canadian is forensically examined and determined to be forged. Within 24 hours, Norway arrests 4 more team members. By the end of the week, 6 Mossad operatives are in Norwegian custody. The victim's name is Ahmed Bouchiki. He is not Ali Hassan Salameh. He is not Black September. He is not Palestinian. He is a Moroccan waiter working at a local restaurant. He has lived in Lillehammer for 2 years. His wife, Toril Larsen, is 8 months pregnant with their first child. He was walking her home from dinner when Mossad killed him. Mike Harari receives the identification report at 6:00 a.m. Israeli time. He reads it 3 times before the reality settles. They killed the wrong man. Not a case of mistaken identity where the target was at least connected to Palestinian operations. They executed a civilian who had no connection to anything. The 75% confidence was 0% accurate. But the worst revelation comes 6 hours later when Mossad's research division completes their post-operation analysis. Ali Hassan Salameh was never in Europe during July 1973. He was in Beirut the entire month, meeting with PLO leadership about reorganizing Black September's command structure. The man in Geneva, the man in Lillehammer, neither was Salameh. The entire surveillance network had been tracking random Palestinian travelers and Moroccan immigrants, building phantom patterns that led to a waiter's death. The assumption underlying 7 months of operations was wrong from the beginning. They assumed Salameh would travel to Europe because that's where Black September's infrastructure existed. They assumed he would surface eventually because high-value targets always make mistakes. They assumed their surveillance network would recognize him because their operatives were trained and their informants were reliable. Every assumption was incorrect. Salameh stayed in Beirut because he didn't need to travel. His subordinates handled European operations. He didn't surface because he wasn't hiding. He wasn't making mistakes because he wasn't operating under the constraints Mossad imagined. The entire operational framework was built on intelligence assumptions that were never validated. And now, a Moroccan waiter is dead in Norway. 6 operatives are arrested. The network is exposed. and Ali Hassan Salameh is still alive, still in Beirut, probably unaware that Israel just spent 7 months and killed an innocent man trying to find him. Harari sits in his office with the file open in front of him. The question he can't answer is simple. At what point should he have known? When the Geneva identification was 75%? When Lillehammer was lower? When Airbell reported the target had no security? Or 7 months earlier, when the entire operation was based on the assumption that hunting Salameh in Europe would eventually work? The answer doesn't matter anymore. The operation has already failed in a way that can't be undone. Norwegian police begin interrogations within hours of the arrests. Dan Erbo sits across from 2 detectives in a windowless room at Lillehammer police station. His Canadian passport identifies him as Leslie Wayne Thompson, mining consultant. The story holds for approximately 40 minutes. Then they show him the photographs. The surveillance was comprehensive. Norwegian intelligence had been tracking the Mossad team since they arrived in Oslo. Not because Norway suspected an assassination plot, they didn't, but because 6 foreign nationals traveling on different passports, arriving within 24 hours of each other, and converging on a small town-triggered routine counterintelligence protocols. The Norwegians documented everything: hotel check-ins, rental car agreements, the surveillance positions outside Bauchiki's guest house. Airbell's training is to deny everything until legal representation arrives, but the evidence isn't circumstantial. The photographs show him following Bauchiki through Lillehammer. The ballistics match his weapon. His shoes match the footprints. And critically, the Norwegians have one team member, Marianne Gladnikov, who broke during initial questioning and confirmed they were Israeli intelligence. In Tel Aviv, Mike Harari learns about the confessions through a back-channel communication from Norwegian intelligence. This is professional courtesy, intelligence service to intelligence service. The message is clear. Norway knows this was a Mossad operation. They know it was an assassination, and they're going to prosecute. Harari immediately requests an emergency meeting with Zvi Zamir. The meeting includes representatives from the Prime Minister's office, the Foreign Ministry, and military intelligence. The question on the table is not whether to acknowledge the operation. Everyone agrees denial is the only option. The question is what to do about the arrested operatives. Foreign Ministry argues for immediate diplomatic intervention. Trade the operatives for something. Norway wants weapons contracts, intelligence sharing, anything. Military intelligence argues for a prisoner extraction operation. Break them out of Norwegian custody before the trial begins. Zamir proposes a third option. Let the trial proceed, maintain deniability, and rely on prisoner exchanges after convictions. The operatives will serve reduced sentences and eventually return to Israel. Harari sits silent through this discussion. The operational question no one is addressing is whether they should continue hunting Salameh. The Lillehammer failure has exposed the entire European network. Every safe house, every communication protocol, every cover identity. Arab intelligence services are receiving daily briefings from Norwegian investigators. The operational damage is catastrophic. But there's a deeper issue Harari recognizes. The operation failed because they violated their own doctrine. They executed on insufficient identification. They prioritized speed over certainty. They let political pressure override operational judgment. These aren't problems that disappear just because they start over with a new approach. These are institutional failures that will repeat unless the underlying assumptions change. He raises this concern after the meeting ends. He tells Zamir directly, "We need to stop. Reassess the entire operational framework. Salameh isn't in Europe. He might never come to Europe. We built 7 months of operations on bad assumptions." Zamir's response is immediate. "That's exactly why we continue. We can't let this failure be the last chapter." This is the logic that traps them. Stopping now means the Lillehammer killing was meaningless, a mistake with no redemption. Continuing means they can eventually kill Salameh and retroactively justify everything. The deadwaiter becomes collateral damage in a larger success story rather than evidence of operational failure. Harari understands this reasoning. He also understands it's wrong. But he doesn't resign. He doesn't refuse the assignment. He agrees to restructure the operation with new parameters. No action without 2 independent identity confirmations. No European operations without local government cooperation. No kills in neutral countries. These restrictions make the operation nearly impossible, which is partly the point. If Salame can only be killed under perfect conditions, maybe he won't be killed at all. The trial begins in January 1974. The prosecution presents meticulous evidence, phone records showing coordination between operatives, hotel receipts placing them in Lillehammer during the surveillance period, rental car agreements matching vehicles photographed near the crime scene, and most damaging, testimony from Marianne Gladnikov detailing the operational structure, the surveillance protocols, and the final authorization to kill. Dan Erbel testifies in his own defense. He admits he believed Buchiki was a terrorist threat. He claims they had intelligence indicating Buchiki was meeting with Black September operatives. The prosecution destroys this claim systematically. They present Buchiki's work schedule. He was a waiter, working double shifts to save money before his child's birth. They present his meeting records. He met with restaurant suppliers, local friends, family members. No Palestinians, no Black September. No connection to anything remotely related to terrorism. The prosecution then presents the photograph Erbel used for identification, the grainy image from Geneva showing a man in sunglasses at a cafe. They bring in facial recognition experts who testify the photograph could match approximately 40% of Middle Eastern men in the same age range. The identification was essentially random. Erbel had no valid reason to believe this was Salame beyond hope and institutional pressure. Erbel is convicted of murder and sentenced to 5 years. 2 other operatives receive shorter sentences for accessory charges. The remaining 3 are released due to insufficient evidence of direct participation, but the sentences are almost irrelevant. What matters is what Norway publishes after the trial, a complete operational breakdown of Mossad's European surveillance network. The document is 247 pages. It details safe houses in 8 countries, communication protocols, cover identities for 17 operatives, escape routes, weapons caches, financial networks. Everything accumulated over 20 years of operations is now public record. Arab intelligence services study it like a textbook. Every Allied intelligence service reads it as a warning about Israeli operational security. Back in Tel Aviv, Harari submits his post-operation report in March 1974. The core finding: the Salame operation failed because leadership prioritized political objectives over operational reality. They wanted Salame dead as a symbolic response to Munich, regardless of whether killing him actually enhanced Israeli security. The operation became self-justifying. Success was defined as target eliminated rather than threat reduced. The report includes a recommendation: terminate the Salame operation. Acknowledge internally that the cost: 1 innocent killed, 6 operatives imprisoned, entire European network exposed, exceeds any benefit from eventually killing Salame. Redirect resources to operations with clear strategic value. Zamir reads the report and files it. He doesn't terminate the operation. Instead, he transfers Harari to intelligence analysis, officially a lateral move, functionally a demotion. The message is clear: Mossad doesn't abort missions because of setbacks. The Salame operation will continue with new leadership, new methods, and the same fundamental objective. What none of them realize yet is that the operation has already changed doctrine in ways they won't understand for years. The Lillehammer failure creates a template. Political authorization plus insufficient intelligence plus institutional momentum equals catastrophic mistakes. This template will repeat in Jordan in 1997, in Dubai in 2010, in operations that haven't been declassified yet. But in March 1974, all they know is that Ali Hassan Salame is still alive in Beirut. The operation has cost 1 innocent life, 6 imprisoned operatives, and 20 years of infrastructure. And the institution has decided the only acceptable response is to continue until they get it right. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs, no matter who else dies along the way. The exposure happens in layers. First, the Norwegian publication of Mossad's operational structure in March 1974. Then, Arab intelligence services begin systematically dismantling what remains. Safe houses in Brussels and Copenhagen are raided within weeks. A Mossad courier is arrested in Rome, carrying documents that match the Norwegian descriptions. A communication protocol in Geneva is intercepted and decoded, but the deeper damage is human. The Cyanim network, Jewish volunteers across Europe who provided surveillance support, safe houses, and operational cover begins to dissolve. These aren't professional spies. They're business owners who let Mossad use their offices for meetings, taxi drivers who tracked targets, accountants who moved money through legitimate businesses. After Lillehammer, many refuse further cooperation. A community leader in Stockholm receives a visit from Mossad in April 1974 requesting continued support. He declines. His explanation is simple: "You told us this was about preventing attacks on Jewish communities. You didn't tell us you were killing people in neutral countries based on guesses. My synagogue won't be part of this." Similar conversations happen in Copenhagen, Oslo, and Amsterdam. 20 years of relationship building evaporates in 4 months. The institutional response inside Mossad is predictable. They don't question whether the operation should have been authorized. They question why the field team failed to properly identify the target. The official post-operation review, completed in June 1974, concludes operational security protocols were adequate. Target identification procedures require enhancement. The review never asks whether killing Salame was strategically necessary. It assumes necessity and focuses on execution failures. Mike Harari reads this review from his new desk in the analysis division. He writes a dissenting memo that remains classified for 40 years. The key argument: we are measuring success by whether we eventually kill Salama, not by whether killing him achieves any strategic objective. This is how institutions justify unlimited costs for symbolic victories. The memo is filed without response. But Harari isn't wrong. By mid-1974, Black September is already fragmenting not because of Israeli pressure, but because the PLO is shifting toward political rather than military strategy. Salame's operational relevance is declining, but the Israeli cabinet has invested too much political capital to walk away. The operation continues under new leadership with one modification: no action until identity is confirmed through technical intelligence rather than visual surveillance. This requirement effectively freezes the operation for 4 years. Salame remains in Beirut, meeting with PLO officials, occasionally providing intelligence to the CIA about Palestinian factions that threaten American interests. The CIA begins warning Mossad in 1976. Salame is now a liaison asset. Killing him damages U.S. intelligence operations in the Middle East. Israel acknowledges the warning and ignores it. The Salame operation creates a template that repeats across decades. In 1997, Mossad attempts to assassinate Hamas leader Khalid Mashal in Jordan using an untested toxin. The operation fails when the poison doesn't work as expected. 2 operatives are arrested. Jordan threatens to end diplomatic relations unless Israel provides the antidote and releases imprisoned Hamas members. Israel complies. Mashal survives and becomes more influential than before. The operational pattern is identical to Lillehammer: political authorization, insufficient testing of methods, institutional pressure overriding field judgment, catastrophic failure. The lesson from 1973 wasn't absorbed. The institutional memory retained: we eventually killed Salama but forgot we killed an innocent man first and destroyed our European network. In 2010, Mossad assassinates Hamas operative Mahmoud al-Mabhouh in Dubai. The kill is successful, but operational security is catastrophic. Dubai police release surveillance footage showing 27 Mossad operatives conducting the operation. Their cover identities, travel patterns, and coordination methods are exposed globally. European allies issue arrest warrants. The operational cost exceeds any intelligence value from eliminating al-Mabhouh. Again, the pattern repeats: successful kill, strategic failure, long-term damage exceeding short-term gain. The institution learned to execute operations, but never learned to question whether execution was strategically justified. Ali Hassan Salame dies on January 22, 1979, when a car bomb explodes in Beirut. The blast kills him, 4 bodyguards, and 4 civilians, including a British student and a Lebanese woman carrying groceries. Mossad never officially claims responsibility. Prime Minister Menachem Begin makes no public statement. But the private assessment tells a different story. By 1979, Salome is no longer operationally significant. Black September has disbanded. Salome's role has shifted to liaison work with intelligence services. His death accomplishes nothing that patients wouldn't have achieved naturally. But the operation that began in 1972 finally reaches completion. Target eliminated. Mission success. The actual costs are never fully calculated. 1 innocent man killed in Norway. 8 civilians killed in Beirut. 6 operatives imprisoned. Complete exposure of European surveillance infrastructure. Permanent damage to CIA Mossad cooperation. Loss of credibility with Allied intelligence services. And an institutional lesson that reinforces the wrong conclusion: persistence eventually succeeds, regardless of cost. Mike Harari retires in 1980. He spends his remaining years trying to convince Mossad that the Salome operation was a failure disguised as success. The institution never accepts this argument. The official history records Spring of Youth as a successful multi-year operation that demonstrated Israeli capability and resolve. The costs are mentioned as acceptable trade-offs for strategic objectives achieved. Ahmed Bouchiki's widow, Taril Larson, receives no apology from Israel. Dan Erbel serves 2 years before release in a prisoner exchange and returns to a promotion. The Norwegian government demands compensation. Israel pays nothing. The Cyanim network never fully recovers, but new networks are built in other regions where the Lillehammer story hasn't penetrated as deeply. The lesson that should have been learned: that institutional momentum can override operational judgment, that political objectives can corrupt strategic thinking, that killing enemies doesn't always enhance security, remains unlearned. The template created in 1973 continues repeating because the institution defines success as target elimination rather than threat reduction. 40 years later, when the operation is finally declassified, analysts debate whether it was worth it. The debate misses the point. The question was never whether Salome deserved to die. The question was whether killing him justified the costs Israel accepted, and whether an institution that couldn't answer that question honestly should have been conducting the operation at all. If this story resonates with the complexity of intelligence operations where success and failure become indistinguishable, explore more documentaries on operations that challenged the boundaries between justice and institutional momentum.